It was supposed to be just another quiet Friday night for Daniel and his 7-year-old daughter, Lily. The week had been long, the kind that left Daniel's shoulders aching and his hands stained with engine grease that never seemed to wash out completely. Friday nights at the little diner on the corner of Maple Street were their ritual, a small island of comfort in a sea of daily struggle. The diner wasn't fancy, but it had its own kind of magic. The red vinyl booths were worn from years of families coming and going. The jukebox in the corner played old songs nobody paid for anymore, and the smell of butter and syrup clung to the air. Pancakes were served at all hours, and the waitress, a gray-haired woman with a laugh like bells, always slipped Lily an extra cherry on her ice cream. For Daniel, it was enough, a place where the world felt safe, predictable, and kind. But that night, as he slid into the booth across from his daughter and watched her swing her legs beneath the table, he sensed something was off. The low, steady hum of chatter and clinking dishes fractured when a sharp voice cut through the room. Heads turned. Across the diner, two men loomed over a young woman's table. She sat alone, clutching her purse against her chest as though it were a shield. Her wide eyes flicked from the men to the exit, calculating, desperate. The tension around her was so thick it seemed to press against the walls. Lily's small hand tugged at her father's sleeve. Her voice was barely a whisper, but it carried urgency. "Daddy, can we help her?" Daniel froze. His pulse quickened. He wasn't a cop, not a soldier, not someone trained for moments like this. He was just a mechanic, a single dad trying to keep his shop open and give his little girl a decent life. Confrontation wasn't in his nature. But when he looked into Lily's pleading eyes, innocent, trusting, certain that her father could fix anything, something inside him shifted. He couldn't just sit there. Pushing himself up from the booth, Daniel walked across the diner floor, each step heavier than the last. His palms were damp, his throat dry, but he forced himself forward. He planted himself between the woman and the men, squaring his shoulders. "Is there a problem here?" His voice was steady, almost calm, though his heart hammered against his ribs. One of the men sneered, sizing him up with a slow curl of the lip. "Mind your business." Daniel shook his head. "She is my business." Not tonight. The diner went still. Forks clattered onto plates. A baby somewhere started crying before being hushed. For a moment, Daniel thought fists would fly. He braced himself, but then, with a muttered curse, the men backed off. They shoved through the door, the bell above it jangling violently as it slammed shut behind them. The woman's hands trembled as she whispered, "Thank you." "You don't know what could have happened." Daniel nodded and gently guided her back into her seat. Lily hurried over and, with shy bravery, handed the woman her napkin, offering a tentative smile. The woman managed a grateful laugh through her tears. That night, Daniel didn't think much more about it. He tucked Lily into bed, listened to her excited whisper, "Daddy, you were like a superhero," and kissed her forehead. He told himself it was nothing more than a fleeting moment, something that would fade with the days. But the next morning, everything changed. When Daniel pulled up to his small, weather-beaten repair shop, a sleek black car was waiting outside. It didn't belong. The vehicle gleamed against the backdrop of cracked pavement and rusted pickup trucks. The driver's door opened, and the same woman from the diner stepped out. But she wasn't the same. Gone was the frightened stranger clutching her purse. Today she carried herself with quiet authority, dressed in a tailored suit that spoke of wealth and success. Her heels clicked sharply against the ground as she approached, every step measured. "Daniel," she began, her voice softer, now warmer. "I didn't get to tell you who I was yesterday." He wiped his hands on a rag, suddenly conscious of the grease under his fingernails. "My name is Claire Reynolds." The name hit him like a jolt. Reynolds, as in Reynolds Industries, the company that owned half the factories in the state. He had fixed cars in the shadow of their empire for years, never imagining he'd speak face-to-face with one of them. "I wanted to thank you," Claire continued. "Not just for protecting me, but for showing your daughter what courage and decency look like. The truth is, I was meeting someone that night to discuss a deal. Those men weren't strangers. They were trying to intimidate me into backing down. But because of you, I walked away safe." Daniel shifted uncomfortably, brushing dust from his overalls. "I just did what anyone should have." A faint smile tugged at her lips. "Not everyone would have. Which is why I'd like to return the kindness." She turned back to the car, opened the door, and pulled out a sleek folder. With deliberate care, she set it on the hood of Daniel's battered pickup. He hesitated before flipping it open and froze. Inside were contracts, paperwork offering him a deal to service and manage the entire fleet of Reynolds Industries vehicles. It wasn't just work. It was a lifeline. Enough to transform his struggling little shop into a thriving business. Enough to give Lily the future he dreamed of. Why me? His voice cracked. Claire's eyes softened as she glanced toward Lily, who had just come skipping across the lot, her laugh bright in the morning air. Because, she said quietly, the kind of man who listens to his daughter when she says, "Can we help her?" is the kind of man I trust. Daniel swallowed hard, words catching in his throat. He had never expected that one small act in a corner diner could ripple outward into something this big, this life-changing. As Lily wrapped her arms around his waist, grinning up at him with pride, Daniel knew their lives had quietly shifted forever.